You've heard this over and over in these past few days, weeks even. We've been dealing with a lot. We're experiencing the eruption, I think, of fear and anger with strong demands for justice. This is all in the midst of an already tense situation with the coronavirus. I've been thinking, and I think it's worth asking, how is my faith going to guide me? How will it center me? What does it demand of my actions, my life? And in these days after Pentecost, of course, how can the Spirit compel us to share the faith that we have in Jesus? As I was thinking about this, I stumbled upon an article in a devotional I get by the president of The Word Among Us, Jeff Smith. And this is what he writes. He says, "One of my 6 sisters is an atheist. She's also one of the most loving and caring people I know. She recently surprised me when she told me how glad she is that my wife and I strongly believe in God and that we have a belief in the promise of heaven. I was so grateful when she told me that." Then he says, "It reminded me of Pope Paul VI's words in his encyclical, Evangelii Nuntiandi. Modern man listens more willingly to witnesses than to teachers. And if he does listen to teachers, it's because they are witnesses." That said a lot to me. Psalm 25 today also strikes a prayer that we need to turn to God more than ever if we're willing to get serious, at least, with the way God can provide insightful ways for us to approach life, to live our lives. "Teach me, O Lord, make known to me your ways." It's God, it's the Lord who guides the humble to justice. We're told also that the paths of the Lord are kindness and constancy. We have to keep at it. Let's face it that with what God often teaches us, and Jesus showed us the way, the truth, and the life. Jesus was the embodiment in the way he lived to teach us how to live in God. I think we really need to reflect on how we can more and more embrace those teachings and make them real in our lives. It's not easy. So when the scribe asks Jesus about following the commandments, Jesus replies and teaches from the book of Deuteronomy about loving God, and how then that naturally flows into love of neighbor. And neighbor, if you study it, has a broader concept, even from Leviticus. But getting people to practice what they teach and preach, well, that's something else, and we know that from our lives, don't we? Living Christianity has never been easy. Look at poor Paul there imprisoned, even in today's reading. Sooner or later, it gets into trouble or hated, or as with Paul, in prison. He also tells us that God's word, God's truth, can never be imprisoned. Paul's living the truth of Jesus and the kind of loving that is required of us and was required of him will never, ever dash our hope. It wasn't the hope of being freed from prison for him. He understood that, I think, but a hope in the power of God's word that he knew somehow that would live beyond him. So he wanted to get that message out there. We need, more than ever, the hope of our faith. We need the support of one another to encourage us to do the right things, to stand up for what is wrong. And we need the courage of God's Spirit to love even when it's so very difficult to love. We must. We have to look at one another as brothers, as sisters on planet Earth. So don't tell me what you believe, but rather show me, give witness, show me how you live, and then I'll listen.